Hi everyone, it's Lavinia. I have here my sketchbook where I was showing in the previous video. I had dropped in some watercolor into the sketchbook. This is a watercolor sketchbook, and that I was going to be using it as my background for adding some Zentangle and Zentangle inspiration tangles. ZIA, ZIA, Zentangle inspiration art. So and one of the tangles, or a couple of the tangles I had mentioned, one was Mooka, which is this, but there are variations, and I'll show you here what some of those variations are, as well as Flux. I do like Flux. This is a string where I have Flux. I have Mooka right here. And Shattuck, we learned Shattuck in the Inktober. This one is Poke Root. I know there was Poke Heart, which was different in the Inktober, but because I had that problem with that symmetry, I did a tangulation of Poke Root and Poke Leaf and made my own Poke Heart coming out of the original Poke Heart. And let's see, so for example, here's another place where I had done Shattuck and then some other Zentangles, but I am going to show Mooka. So let me get a little bit closer and we'll break this down. I'll just set this aside for a moment. So I have here some Master's Touch. This is the Hobby Lobby brand. And these are graphic ink pencils. I have this little cactus pencil. It's a very fine nib. I may use that just for fun. Here's a pencil of 4B in graphite, and then I have a couple of tortillons. I have my eraser. I'm not sure if I'm going to go ahead and use that, but let me go ahead and show you what Mooka, or the different variations of Mooka, are like. So the original one, let me put this in a box or a rectangle. So one way of drawing it is sort of coming up. Maybe this one might be too thin to see. This is a 0.5. These may have been dried out. But anyway, you come up and you have like a little bit of a lobe and then come on down. So there's just a little bit of a lobe, which is thicker. This one reminds me of when I was little. There was an author, Richard Scarry, Scarry, and he had some books, and I think there was also a cartoon, and it was cats, and it was fun for kids. For me as growing up as little, you learned about colors and clothes and different things, and there was and it was all animals, and one of them was Lowly Worm, and this reminds me of Lowly Worm. He would have his little pant and shirt and little hat with a feather. But that's what reminds me just reminds me of that cartoon and illustration. Another way to draw Mooka is, oh goodness, these pens. I've had them for several years. Okay, I'm gonna go with, okay, I guess I'll just use my Micron PN pen. This looks like it's the brown one. And this one has a thicker nib. It's a plastic nib. So you can come up. It doesn't matter which way these circles go, but you can come this way. Kind of stop there. And then come down. Another way, which is sort of like this over here, is you can come up, make that circle, then you have a little bit of a separation, and then you come down. And of course you can have like curved lines, and then just come on down. This was the original, I believe, Mooka, where you would have one sort of like here you have one, and then you have, let me see, you have this large one, then there's this one, then there's that one, then there's that one. So it's kind of like reminds me of a heart, but I just kind of like do the tangulation. So that is, these are the variations of Mooka. Then for Flux, that's these, just some teardrop shapes that build upon each other. So again, it's just one of my favorite Zentangles. Like that. And usually it has that long flick. So it's a little bit longer. And then it has those dots inside, but you can, you can change that as you like. You can do your tangulations inside and make changes, but this is fun. It's just very relaxing. You can have a little bit of fescue coming out. You can add orbs. So this is a very fun Zentangle. And which other one? I think we'll do those. But just wanted to show you, for example, here is my Mooka. Then I just did some other tangulations. This might be a Zentangle, I just don't recall. I think I just wanted to fill in the space. And so this is almost like, what was that one called? Not this one, but this is a variation of it, but I just had like the Mooka coming out of it. It'll come to me. But let's get to the watercolor page. Make sure that's in focus, maybe a little bit further out. And maybe I will just start, actually, I think I'm going to make some bricks. And I think there is a Zentangle also that has bricks, because I think I want to make this as a scenery. I'm just going to grab another, I think my black Micron PN pen. So I'm just making these as if these were, because I have an idea. I want to add Oravox. And maybe there's another brick here. Then just going to add as if there's cracks. Maybe a little bit of rounding there. Maybe another brick here. I don't know if I'll go over this with then pastel pencils, but I might just leave it like this. We'll see how it progresses. Might add that graphite, but I want to add Oravox, like a little fox. So I'm going to just add one. I'm not making the border, the long border. So I'm going to put 2 parentheses. And then, let's see, going to put his little ears. So it's like an M. Then I'm going to put in the inside of those ears and ink that in. So those 2 triangles. And I'll add here its little nose. I like to make that curve come up here for the eye to make the nose bridge seem a little bit thinner towards the nose and then go out. So I'm just going to start like that. and put in its little eyes. Like that. So he's just hiding behind that little bit of a brick wall. And then if I wanted to add Mooka, might go ahead and maybe I will, pardon me, have this seem like it's coming on around. And then for this one, I'm going to give it that little bit of a space. And just have it come on back down. Give it a little bit of reflection there, just to give it that dimension. Then maybe there's another one coming on up this way. I'm going to give it that little bit of a curve. Have that one come out that way. Maybe there's one here. Which comes that way. Maybe there's Flux right here. You can add as many as you'd like. Maybe there's an orb that sits right there. Another orb there. I'm just going to ink those little areas in. Maybe in those I will make those larger. So you can just play around with these as you'd like. So that there. Let's see what else we can add. Just going to round that out. And perhaps we can round out some of these areas too. Don't always have to put an orb, but you can do that. You can aura it as well. Oh, let's go ahead and put in Henna Drum. So let's see. Maybe, where should we have Henna Drum coming from? I'm just going to do that there. And Henna Drum, we're just going to start. Maybe we can put in a few. So that half circle, we're going to give it an aura. And then we can ink this in if we want to, or maybe I'll ink this in. Then I'm just going to go ahead and put in where I would want those petals to be. Just going to turn that around. Kyrie keeps coming up to me. I'm not sure what she wants. The door is open for her to go out on the patio if she likes. I'm going to give this a frill. And then I'm going to connect these two with also that frill. Kyrie. Maybe there's that there. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a couple of little flicks. And I'm going to put some little circles here, dots. And then I'm going to give it an aura. Henna Drum is one of my favorites. This would continue here and then come there. And I think instead of inking this in, because I like that watercolor to show, actually, you know what? I'm not going to ink that in at all. I'm going to add, I think, because I do like that watercolor there, I think I'm just going to add just some little striping lines. I think I like that better. And what if we put another henna drum on this side? So I'm going to turn this upside down, and I'm going to put, let's see, that half circle here, and the other one here. That's where one petal would be. The other one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and connect these. And this one would probably just end there. That would end there. Going to give it those flicks. Those little circles or dots. And let's see, maybe here, maybe I'll add some Printemps. Printemps is just a spiral. You can add what they call sparkle. So for example, maybe I might start my spiral. I'll leave a little bit of space, maybe come here, leave a little bit of space, come back here. So just in those areas, I would leave that little bit of a gap. And that would make it look like, you know, there's a little bit of space and a little bit of sparkle. So we could do that. Well, let's see. Maybe I'll start with, I can do several Printemps in here. So maybe I'll start there. I'm going to leave that little bit of a gap. Like that. Maybe there's another one here. And I'll just fill that in that way. And then maybe just like a portion of one this way. So that is what that would look like there. And now I'm going to go ahead and give it that aura. Okay, so if I turn that over, those are my two henna drum. Maybe with this, I'll finish that off with a little teardrop that I'll color in. And maybe I can add maybe a little Printemps over here without the sparkle. Just going to add that here. Like that. Okay, and then maybe we can also add Pokeleaf. As I mentioned, Poke Heart was a little bit different. I did a variation of Pokeleaf or Poke Root on that. So maybe I will add a little bit of it here. So still starting, I think, let me see if I'll do the stem first. Sherman frame. So maybe that, and then we're going to put that little, sort of like a little bit of an upside down, a frown, I guess. And so this one is Pokeleaf, so we're making it look like a leaf, which is almost like an upside down heart. So that is the essence of Pokeleaf. We can add some others. Going to put that little upside down frown, or I guess upside down smile. And then if you wanted to start your leaf that way, you could. And then just come back down. Could have maybe another one. Coming this way. And perhaps it goes behind the henna drum and behind that other leaf. Like that. And you can also add some tangulations to it. So perhaps, let's see if I can just come a little closer. Oops. So maybe there's, I don't know, maybe a vine that kind of twirls around it. Come around. Like that. You know, you can add little embellishments almost to make it look like a mushroom type. Like that. And maybe there's just a little bit of other little leaves here. Okay, so let's see about maybe putting something, you know, here. You could do this as a reverse coloring book, and maybe if you see images and want to add something to that, you can. Let's see. I noticed that this video is getting kind of long, so maybe we could always add bee fly. We saw that in Inktober, so maybe we could add bee fly here. Let's see. That, and then we'll add there, then some little fescue. And then of course we can ink this in. I think I'm just going to do it this way. And then I'm just going to go ahead and let's go ahead and maybe give it some other designs here. These elongated teardrop shapes, I think, is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it that aura. I think I have a whole aura, the antenna as well. So that's bee fly. And I think I will leave it at this. And today is 11/11/25, and then just my initials. I could continue and maybe add additional Mooka, but I think I am going to leave it at that and not add any additional pastel pencils just because I do have the watercolor. But this was fun. Thanks so much for watching. So again, in this particular video, I showed you some additional Zentangles, the Flux, the Mooka, and I know I showed Henna Drum before, but Henna Drum here as well as Pokeleaf and Printemps and Sparkle. All right, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Take care. I will see you in the next one. Bye.